Hi, good evening. It's Gina here for day 5 of our journey together of 55 days of Christ consciousness. Today's date is 6/16/2023. For those of you that like to pay attention to that and that date, I did not do the numerology today, but it does reduce down to 20, which reduces down to a 2. So you're welcome to look that up on your own if you'd like. But this evening is not quite the focus. We pulled, as some of you know from Instagram, the little teaser on Instagram, today's card is Enlightenment. Continue to grow. Enlightenment, continue to grow. And just want to take a moment for you to take in that card. And also, while you're taking in that card, to ground yourself and place your feet on the ground, feeling the earth beneath your feet, the carpet or the wood floor or the rug, whatever is beneath your feet, even through the soles of your shoes. And take a nice breath in and soften your body in the exhale. And coming into your heart. Because I was surprised this morning, while we are taking this journey of this 55 card deck of Christ Consciousness by Amanda Ellis, for those of you just joining, and illustrated by Jane Delaford Taylor. So I just felt inspired to, let's take this journey together and invoke and ignite the Christ Consciousness energies that are within ourselves. It's important to recognize these qualities or energies, and they all exist within you. And it'll show up differently, whether you call it Christ consciousness, I am presence, your inner growth, your soul growth. We're all talking about the same thing here. And to remind you, it's an organic process, which is unique to you and your soul. As your soul continues to grow, and you grow with your soul, and you allow your soul to take the wheel. So enlightenment and continue to grow. And truthfully, I was just like, wow, am I ready to do a reading on enlightenment? And immediately it was just like, why not? Why not do a reading on enlightenment? Why? I'm just as connected to source as anyone else can be in their journey at this level, and continue to grow. This is how I grow, by experiencing things where maybe I'm out of my comfort zone, or maybe I'm experiencing a little bit of self-doubt, or right. And then how do we move through that? Right? How do we move through those moments where we're just like, are you sure? Can I do this? And it's because, what did I say earlier in the Instagram post? Something about how seeking enlightenment, or this elusive state of being for so many people. And is it really that elusive? Can it be that simple as going inward and allowing yourself to discover more about the universe that is within you? That you're part of every day, that it's almost like taking for granted that you wake up every day, right? We take for granted the miracles that occur in our life every day. We take for granted that we're part of a greater universe that may just be part of another universe within a universe within a universe, because we don't know every detail to the universe, right? Or star system. We know what we know today. So, as you're discovering yourself, this is a self-discovery, it feels like to me, and then return to your essence and your divinity within you. And how might you continue to grow and embody that through what looks to be some spiritual practices in this card, right? This young woman meditating, holding her hands in mudras, connecting with energy, because even as this, what appears to be the sun, this is also depicted as energy. When people describe, and I'm going to bring energy in, like Reiki, shokure, 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 and you're bringing energy right in to that spot. And look at how that energy is radiating over her crown, Because when you integrate with your higher self and source energy and move toward and bring light to your essence and your soul, you do get your crown activated. Think about all those that are depicted who have a Christ level attainment of ability and energy within them, embodiment. They're depicted with halos around their head. You too, as you become more enlightened, filled with light, you turn into light. Your crown begins to get brighter, right? Begins to get brighter. So as I was sitting here, and I'm looking at, well, let's look at this card a little bit more. We will read out of the book for sure to see what messages and insight came through the channeling of the book. But I liked us to take in this card today, because with this ability for all of us to be on our journey and soul awakening and recognizing it's an infinite process, that there's no race to be anywhere but in your heart. There's no race to get anywhere. You're having an inner evolution of the inner, which gets expressed in the outer. And the outer nature has a very direct relationship to our inner nature. So as you become enlightened, how might you focus on your microcosm? Because what's in the micro is also in the macro, and what's in the macro is in the micro. So whatever is in you is in a greater whole. It's in the universe. The universe is in you. You are the universe, and the universe is you. I remember earlier on in some of my studies and mastery studies, that was one of the, in one of our gatherings and ceremony for more of advanced studies, one of the things we were chanting together was, I am the universe and the universe is in me. And I am the universe and the universe is in me. I am the universe and the universe is in me. And every time I would say that, and even now, I feel this charge of energy pulsate through. Because it's true. You are the stars. You are the universe. You are these cosmic Christ energies, the cosmic heart of all. Right? You are these energies that exist within you. You're the fractals of light. You're fractals of energy brought into this dense form. Your soul condensed down. And now you're in this physical body. Your physical body. So as you take in this image, I'll bring it in a little further. All the colors, like her body is not even physical body, because the more light you become and know how to work and manage with light and work with the universe and the knowledge and wisdom of the universe, you command energy, you command your light. You become less and less dense. You become lighter, literally light, as well as lighter in energy, lighter in physicality, lighter in being. Because now you're drawing out in the wisdom of all that is. You're awakening to intellect in a way that you haven't before in this life. Right? Because I, for one, believe that you were all once ascended. We were all ascended beings at one time, and now we're come back to reawaken to that ascension and enlightenment within you. Right? And as I was sitting here preparing, I had lit some sage to clear the space and clear my field and center myself and allow my personal being to step aside and my human my ego to step aside and to be the clear conduit for us today in any time we channel, anytime I channel. I used to not say channel, but that's what I'm being, is a channel or conduit for energy to come through and then speak through me. And this is just some essential oil for breathing. So enlightenment, it seems so elusive to so many of us. I would say to the majority of us. We seek it, we talk about it, but I never hear anyone really talk about, well, what is it really? What does it mean? What's it mean to you? Because it's not something that's tangible. It's these unseen forces that are very palpable. Similar to grace, it's palpable, and then you can see it embodied in somebody, right? You can see it embodied. But when you just kind of simplify it, just by listening to the word, and even the root word of en, in Latin it means into, in Greek it's into, in Old English light, right? Into light. So it seems to me every time you go through some sort of healing process and bring awareness. And what do we talk about when this spirituality journey? Oh, bring light to it. Bring wisdom to it. Yeah, so I'm just going to simplify something that's very complicated and be right here with you, right where you're at. And I encourage you, even if you're further along your path, your abilities than even me, maybe you're further along, but you're coming across this video, or maybe you're just waking up and you're coming across this video. I want to invite us to just, let's be really simplistic. Return to the heart. And how does this play out organically in your life through healing? And how does it relate to Christ consciousness energies, or cosmic Christ energies that are within you and your presence? How does that relate? How does enlightenment relate to drawing in and embodying presence, your I am presence? Right? In Buddhist terms, bodhi and vimutti, and excuse me if I pronounce these incorrectly, because they're Sanskrit words, it's knowledge or wisdom, awakened intellect. Awakened intellect. So as we are coming into our Christ consciousness energies, our divine energy, our divine feminine energy is waking up. Our divine masculine energy is being redistributed as well. And both those energies are coming back into harmonics within you, meaning, and also that relates to your northern hemisphere, your North Star, what's your north, what's your true north, okay, in your source connection direction, okay, but also your left and right hemisphere of your brain are coming into harmonics and merging into one, and remembering it is works together in unison and unity in the oneness of all that is. Your all-seeing eye, your third eye, is highly composed in this place. And what does that have to do with enlightenment and Christ consciousness? Was your ability to see and have foresight, your ability to see beyond the surface layers, to see beyond your emotional layers, to see beyond even the mental layers, because now you are ascending into these higher aspects as you bring light. You turn it into light. You bring light to your experiences. You turn it into wisdom. You bring in the light of your soul, the wisdom of your soul. the wisdom of your I am presence, the wisdom of source energy that you're directly connected to, detaching from the emotional hooks that as human beings we place on things and make things personal. And when we make it personal and make all these assumptions, that doesn't leave room for anything. It doesn't leave room for dialogue. It doesn't all it leaves room for you is suffering. Right? I recently went through something, and I know because of the person I was working with on the other side, what type of reaction I was going to get back by being just neutral and saying, no, leave me off these emails. Leave me off this email thread. But should we all come back together as a unified front, reach back out to me if we're ever at that point. But since we weren't, I don't want to be included in that conversation until and if and when that's ready to have a collaborative effort. Right? So the response back I got is odd, because it was everything I said was turned into a personal attack of the other person. And there was nothing personal in there. It was all based on what their prior response to me was, saying there's no joint effort here. There's no organizer here. Right? And because this person is making everything personal, then all this whole long-winded response back, reaction back based on their reality in life doesn't even match up to what I had said, right? There's discordant energies. So how might, as you bring light to a situation that is challenging, right? Because I know we all have those moments. What do you do to bring light to a situation? How do you give room for the light to come in within you? How do you make room for the light in your higher self to come in within you? What spiritual practices are you putting into practice every day? Are you meditating? Are you holding mudras and connecting with that symbol, those symbols? Connecting with those symbols. In fact, that reminds me, I have a mudra deck, so perhaps we will pull a mudra to see what mudra will support you with bringing in the wisdom and the attributes that come with the energy of enlightenment. Right? Because when you are learning, I feel it's almost like this is a skill, right? To bring light to something. When you're learning how to bring light to something, it takes practice, because you also have to master your energetics. You have to understand your own energetics and your own patterns, and to bring in your higher self when you go to choose to do something, or even may have to pause and reread something. So we're going to ask this deck, and I want to clear it first because I haven't used it for a while. So again, whenever you're using your divination tools, clear them before and after you use them. So as we are simplifying enlightenment, even the way it's defined, into light. Bring light to something, bring light into you, bring light into a situation, shed light on something. We use the term all the time and we don't even realize it, that we're enlightening things all the time. So what if it's just this ongoing journey of always being in light into light. What wisdom can I gather from this? What if that's how you walk through the day with grace every day and be like, what wisdom can I bring from this experience? What light is here for me? What light is here for you? Is it meant to be shared with others, or is it meant to be shared just with your own heart right now? And perhaps it'll come out at another time, right? When you use discernment. And I'm being reminded again. So let me, I'm laughing because as I am looking at the smoke, and this is the second time it's done this, and it's taken on these little, it's been very, has a mind of its own. You might see it waft across the camera. It's actually quite beautiful, but it's reminding me, it was a sign of Tesla being, his energy being here in the room and very present, because there was little strings of matter that was coming off of it. And I remembered two things about 2.5 years ago. Gosh, it's been that long already, or maybe 2 years ago. I was sitting, it was my second session on a Tesla coil mat. And it was set up in this really nice grid of crystals so I could release and then bring in energy after I was done with the release of stuff I was going through. And of course it was with a guided practitioner too, and she held the space while I did my release work and set my intentions. And then at a certain point I turn the crystals and the grid, so then I'm now bringing in energy. So what's connected to, and what I was laying on was a copper mat connected to a Tesla coil, and I forget the amount of voltage that was running through there. But when you set these things up and it's grounded, it doesn't electrocute you. It's like you're totally fine to sit on the current, but it was very palpable through my body. And so when I was sitting there, I saw these little strings. It looked like thin little white strings. And I'm like, what is that? I've never seen that before. And it's like you could stretch it, right? And about a month later, I was listening to, it's funny, Amanda Ellis channel Tesla. And she described one of the signs that he's there was that these little strings of matter out of thin air. And it's not doing it anymore, the smoke. And it was doing it just now and just before I came on. And so I'm just like, what wisdom does Tesla have for us with regard to enlightenment? And I kept coming across this one quote, which I will share with you in a moment, and perhaps we'll call his energy in for some guidance there. And so we just want one mudra to assist you to work with on your own, if you choose, that will aid you with this energy of enlightenment that exists within you. All right. And there's actually, I think, 2 mudras popped out, but we have breath, the Pramara mudra. Pramara mudra is what this one's called. Okay, and then we have inner truth mudra, the inner truth mudra. Samputa mudra, inner truth mudra. So we'll begin with the breath. And again, these are to support you with the energy of enlightenment. And what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you as you walk through your life, as you are integrating your soul and wisdom of your soul guidance and your higher self and direct connection to source and your monad and source energy? Okay, so with the breath, it's number 30 in this deck. If you want to, on your own, look up the numerology if that is resonant with you. So it looks like, okay, so you have the thumb is out, the index finger is curled in, and then the second finger, that's the middle finger, is up with the thumb. Okay, I'll do that again. We have the thumb curled in, or excuse me, index finger curled in to the thumb. We have the thumb out this, okay? And then you have the middle finger up toward the thumb. It's pictured more this way, but I have a feeling it may be connected at the tips. Just because it's hard to tell on a two-dimensional image. And then the other two fingers are out straight. Now, due to my tightness through here, I can't put them out straight, but the intention's the same, okay? And I'll hold that up for you again. This is to work with the breath. And the breath, right? It's our life force energy, it's our prana. So I'll read the back of the card for you so you can learn a little bit about what this mudra benefits and assists you with. So it assists you with ease, boundaries, and immunity. Benefits: it relieves allergies and nasal congestion, assists the immune system, opens and directs breath to the head and sinuses, which is interesting because I was using Breathe. You saw me putting that on today, and even the color is the same. And yeah. And let's see, instructions. So instructions while you're working with this mudra, and use both hands. This is something you could do at any time, sitting. Now, if you're driving, I don't suggest ever meditating or anything with driving. However, that doesn't mean you can't hold the mudra in one hand if it's safe to do so. Always if it's safe to do so. Otherwise, don't do this in the car, or if you're operating machinery, things of that nature. It's best to do it when you have your sacred time to yourself. Okay, so you're working with the breath. Bhramara Mudra, Bhramara Mudra. The instructions: bring the tip of the index fingers to touch. Bring the tip of the index fingers to touch the base of the thumb. So that's this. Touch the tip of the thumb to the top of the middle finger. Okay. So that's how we had it, to the top of the middle finger. Allow all other fingers to extend, and that's how far my fingers can extend. So I can't go any farther. Outward. Rest the back of the hands on the top of the thighs, palms facing up. So if I was resting my arm on the thigh, my thigh would be right here. So similar to how she's resting on the knees and thigh, that's where your mudra will rest, on the thigh. Okay. And as I explain this for those that haven't worked with mudras, and they're very powerful and simple way to use and align your body and elements of your body, right? We're working with the element of air when we work with the breath. And the focus of this card is, I sense and open to perfect balance in breath. I sense and open to perfect balance and breath. And I'll hold this up so you can look at it. Okay, and this is from the mudras deck for awakening the energy body. So here we're working, because you are working with energetics here, and your energetic body and your light body. Okay, it's synonymous. It's written by Alison De Nicola, and the artwork is by Sabina Espinay or Espinet. Okay, so let's work with the breath there. We're going to turn to the card here, or the book, in case there's something else in it for us. If there's no additional information, we'll move on to the next card. Okay, so here's the practice. This is the piece that is supporting you. So here's the practice while you're holding that mudra. Bring your awareness to the breath. Feel the breath flowing into the nostrils, all the way inward to the lungs. Follow the exhale flowing out from the lungs and nose. Sense the warmth of your inhale, the temperature of your exhale. Feel the breath. Feel the face and eyes and behind the eyes. Feel breath in the sinuses, cheeks, and temples. Your head fills with the breath of balance. See yourself balancing on a mountain peak high above. Feel the body sway with the wind, with the breath. Feel yourself open to balance. Okay. And there we have that balance again, right? Where earlier in the week we had harmony and balance. Yesterday, I think, with Uriel, Archangel Uriel. So the breath, this becomes very important to work with our breath. You're bringing in prana, you're bringing in harmony, you're bringing in balance. It will support you bringing light to things, right? Because the breath will assist you in the pause. It'll assist you to connect with the deepest aspect of yourself, the highest aspect of yourself, and that direct connection to source, and bringing in your highest qualities as you do what? Yeah, bring light to something, into light. Okay, you're going to enlighten, bring wisdom to, bring knowledge, universal knowledge to, awakened intellect. And don't worry, we'll get to Tesla in a minute. So inner truth, because when we're working with the I am presence, enlightenment, we are working with divine truth. I feel we're going beyond, like, inner truth here really means our highest truth, the truth of all that is. And then we have our human truth, our truth of our experiences, right? So when we're discovering the inner, sometimes it can be very personal when we first are discovering the inner, because we're doing so much deconstruction of our beliefs, of our patterns, of our awareness, right? And we're building up new skills. So it's in our interior. It's in the interior of you where you can discover and hear the silence and the depths of your knowledge and wisdom that is within you. You begin to hear the soul. You begin to hear your soul come through, right? And I needed to close my eyes for a moment to take away that sense for a second, because when we close the eyes, the other senses heighten, and then I can begin to hear myself a bit more. I can hear my body a little bit more. But what I also want to invite you to do is to learn to do this with your eyes open. Learn to be in your inner with your eyes open, and that may be learning to have a softer gaze and connecting with your breath a little bit more, in that, being in that pause. The pause gives you space to discern. It gives you space to contemplate, and it doesn't have to be hours on end. It could just be 30 seconds. It could just be 2 seconds, but it will assist you staying calm and harmonious as you bring light and wisdom to something, or as that now light and wisdom is coming in through you, or even perhaps maybe you're listening from another as they bring light and wisdom through them. Or maybe a tree or ally of some kind, right? Because our nature is an ally to us, to you. It reflects your own inner nature. So inner truth, Samputa Mudra, the Samputa Mudra, and I'll hold that up here. It's a really lovely mudra. So one hand like that, and it looks like that may be the right hand on the bottom and left on the top. Sometimes that matters if you're male or female, how that works. So let's see here. And well, we'll see. I'll read the instructions for you. And first I'll hold them up. So it's two hands. It assists in perfect integrity, truth, communication. So as you're enlightened and bringing light into, it does require the utmost truth, integrity. I was talking about what the Akashic records a day or two ago. You'd only access that information with the utmost integrity and truth and with purpose. Otherwise, you will not be able to access them if you're out of integrity. It's not a place to just go, oh, I'm going to pull this record and this record. No, it's very specific and to be handled with the utmost sacredness. So is your connection to source. And in the way you communicate with integrity, right? Blue ray, it's ascending. Your voice is ascending into that higher aspect. Your whole body, energetic body, is ascending to higher aspects. We want to get everything in that vibration or frequency of love, and then everything there, your higher chakras will begin to open more and more that are outside of your body. Remember, mudras are working with your energy body and your elemental body. So the benefits of the Samputa mudra, it brings balance to the throat. Oh, there we go. Vocal cords. It assists the immune system, opens clear communication, and supports balance of your metabolism. Instructions: hold left hand, okay, left hand cupped, facing upward. Bringing the right hand, palm facing down, cupped over the top of the left hand, with fingers resting on the outer edge of the left thumb. Bring hands into the belly center. So it's like this. And then bring hands in the belly center, which is off camera, but your belly center, okay? So if we're using our lovely enlightenment woman here, belly center. So if her hands were cupped, they would come to the belly center there. I feel like I'm in a yoga class. Mudra yoga. That could be fun. Let's do that together. Maybe we'll do that next. I can do some shorts. I'll write that down. Mudra yoga. Shorts. Thanks for the ideas, everybody. Okay. The focus of this mudra is I speak my truth clearly with integrity and compassion. So it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier, my little email back and forth or whatever. I had to speak it clearly and with compassion, right? Because for some reason, and energetically, and from knowing this person, I have a good understanding of the way they see reality and whatnot, and it can be very distorted. Because there is other things going on, but some of you may be experiencing this with other people, but you can still stay in integrity and in compassion while still being in your truth. Because that was one of the things for me. I'm not going to be silenced by this either, right? So I had to be mindful of how am I using my own power? Is my personal power being squashed to speak? And I was just like, no, I don't really care to have be influenced in that way anymore. I get to speak to mutual friends in a group dialogue, even if it's through email, because it would have had no difference if we were all in the same room or not. What I said would have been the same thing. So for some reason, this particular person is taking everything I say and making it personal about them, and then making personal attacks within the lines toward me. which I don't know where they're based from, because I'm just like, we've never had additional conversations about the topic, right? So there, it becomes very accusatory, right? So when you're working with anybody in any sort of state of mind, you still want to speak your truth clearly with integrity and compassion. So you will be challenged when faced with adversity to be able to still speak that way, because it's easy to do that with other people that already speak that way, but you'll be challenged to maintain this knowledgeable and enlightened way when faced with some challenging people and personalities, right? Because that lower vibrational state wants to pull you off your center. So when you do these mudras, it'll assist you in staying in balance and harmony as you speak. Okay, so it's actually kind of quite perfect, whatever happened for me today, to bring this in, not to me, but in my life today, to maintain that integrity, truth, and compassion, and staying in your harmonic state, right? Because part of this is you're learning to stay in your harmonics, your harmony with all that is, and still be centered and calm. So the Samputra Mudra, the practice here is bring to mind a person or situation in your life, which that's just what I did. See the situation in detail and notice any judgment as it arises. That's what I also have expressed. And this is where you're bringing in your higher self, your I am presence. This mudra will assist you to do this. Begin to breathe your balancing breath. Okay. Begin to bring your breath. Begin to breathe your balancing breath as you see this problem float up into the air. Surround it in a bubble of white and blue light. This bubble now floats up through smaller and smaller. It floats up, growing smaller and smaller. The bubble now floats up, growing smaller and smaller. The bubble now floats down and lands in the palm of your hand. You see how small it has become, how manageable. Speak your truth with integrity and compassion. See the bubble dissolve into light. You're learning how to turn things into light, even the conflicts, minimizing, de-escalating. And how might this play out organically in your day-to-day, right? If you're public service, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with emotions all the time. How do you de-escalate and bring light to the situation? This doesn't have to be some unattainable event. You are doing it all the time. When you're in conflict with your children and they're having a tantrum, how do you calm it down? Right? Some people are so wonderfully at ease, and it makes it look so easy to calm children down, right? They bring a lightness to it. They bring light into the situation. How are they communicating? What room do they give that child to express, but still creating very healthy boundary, right? Because they're not taking it personal, right? There's a lot of emotions in children, and how do they communicate? And we have to learn that and give them space, right? So maybe I'm talking to someone of you that may feel challenged, right? And still creating boundary, but you want to bring calm and de-escalation and harmony to the situation, right? So you have to be mindful of your own ego here. And now we'll be going into Tesla, because he speaks about egoism and enlightenment in this quote. And then give it space. So inner truth and breath, Samputra Mudra and Brahmahama Mudra with the breath. Okay, will support you in your ability to be enlightened, or bring enlightenment, universal knowledge, awakened intellect, wisdom, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so that was so lovely to be connected to those two mudras that you can use. And Maybe you can find it on YouTube, something, a link to show you with like someone actually doing it in addition to what I was doing, right? Taking it to the edge there. Let me just clear something out of my way. So I only have a little small surface here that I'm working with. Okay, so Tesla felt he's very present and wants to be this quote be heard. And just give me a second here because it's gonna feel that energy and how he comes in for me. Must have closed it. I'll pull it up again. And this is the only quote that keeps coming up. So sometimes that happens to me. I can search and search and it's the same thing. That wasn't it. I don't know why I just didn't pause while I was finding it, but here we go. Let me see if it pops up again. Okay, so here's the quote from Nikola Tesla in regards to enlightenment. What we now want is a closer contact and a better understanding between individuals and communities all over the earth. The elimination of egoism and pride, which is always prone to plunge the world into primeval barbarism. I was reading that like barbarianism and strife. Peace can only come as a natural consequence of universal enlightenment. And I came across that quote. It's like, wow, how perfect that he showed his little sign to me to look him up and inspired to say Nikola and enlightenment. So what does that have to do with you as you journey? How might you use this energy of Nikola Tesla? Maybe call on him as a guide if you feel connected to with the energies of enlightenment and bringing light into your life, into situations, right? Because you are energy, you are becoming more and more light. You are turning into light. I mean, you already are light, but you're becoming lighter and more vibrant and less dense than before. Hi, Gus. And he wants to go to bed. And there's that piece too, in some literal fashion, that we're all desiring to connect. Every single one of us desires to connect to something outside of ourselves, something higher than ourselves, that we think that it's unattainable and that we're that far away from it, when truly you're not. You can choose to be in it every day, letting the ego be softened and repurposed, letting grace come in, letting go, clearing out your energetic bodies. You're in the aura, right? The emotional center, the mental body, like bringing those into enlightened states as well, and recognizing you are beginning to work with higher intellect, that higher wisdom, that universal wisdom that you're connected to as you come into an awakened intellect. Think about where the third eye is, and it encompasses the brain. It encompasses the pituitary gland, the pineal gland, it's this whole geometric sacred shape that is expanding. And we're going to go ahead and spray a little bit of the expansion spray, because even in this conversation, we are expanding in our light, individually and collectively. And some of you may feel that, and some of you might not. And that's quite all right, no matter what you're experiencing, because you're coming into this universal, this unity consciousness, this oneness consciousness, and you're raising into these other. It's not linear per se, but sometimes it's easier to depict it as a linear way. But your whole way of being through life becomes lighter and enlightened, and you're learning to bring wisdom into situations versus emotional reactions, versus these your patterns ruling you, and then it becomes these emotional outbursts or emotional pattern that's taking over. As you stay in your light and your pillar of light, you're learning the ability that for negative entity it cannot be in your field. You're commanding your energetics. You're connecting directly to source. And this was the first thought I've had while I was driving today. Like, part of me questioned for a moment, like there's natural questions as become more and more enlightened and going directly and more directly to source energy and mastering my energetics. I'm all at what point, and I'm not saying for you guys not to use a gatekeeper for your stellar gateway or anything like that, but this question came to mind is I'm like, wow, at what point would someone that is held so high in their light, would you still need to do that and ask for that guidance to come in? It was just a question. I know the answer for myself, but that's something for you to sit with as you grow in your level of attainment and ability to hold light and be in light 24/7. So my suggestion to you, to not just run with this question that I just threw out there and go, oh, Gina said I didn't need that. That's not what I'm saying at all. We have mentors, we have guides for reasons, and we have gatekeepers for a reason. Because you're not always at that level of ability to do it yourself, and nor should you be doing it yourself, especially for those of you newly awakened and learning your skills. It was just something as I was driving that came to me where I'm like, I wonder if that is the case, right? Because what I know yesterday is going to be different than what I know today. So the more I go direct to source and manage my pillar of light and everything that is within me, I'm like, it would make sense that I'm like, at some point, would I have enough energy, pure energy, and ability to protect my energetic fields and my crown? Would that be something that would happen? And that I'd be able to manage my my gateways, without necessarily asking, or not necessarily, I don't want to say need or asking, that's not the right words, but where it becomes that I have a level of responsibility and accountability that I would be able to manage that with my energy. Right? Kind of like taking the training wheels off for someone that's like, oh, now they can ride their bike without the training wheels. Right? The support, the bolster. Now, by no means am I choosing that today at all. I will know if and when that is even right for me to, let me see if I can manage that gateway on my own. And my personal answer is like, no, not today. And again, I'm not suggesting that of any of you. Do not be arrogant in this. Don't let your ego run going, I got it. Use your gatekeeper. That ask Metatron, Merlin, whichever gatekeeper you feel called to use, Jesus, to keep your gateway clear and managed. Because I don't know of anyone that is at that level. But I could be wrong in that. And again, there was just a thought that came through, which is a very new thought because I've never heard anyone else say that. And so I'm a bit surprised by that, but for some reason I'm sharing that with you. And I encourage you to use the most integrity and should you make that choice, okay? But when you're doing some things, always still activating your pillar of light, grounding, calling in for if those of you that work with the angelic realm, to surround yourself with Archangel Michael and his legion of archangels, blue flame angels and violet flame dragons and violet flame, and those protective colors and energies for your fields, because those will still remain important, because you have to be able to sustain that, and that takes time to build those energies up and call on them every day, all day, throughout the day, and then it gets easier. That I feel will never go away. That's a skill I feel each and every single human being, whether you realize you're on this path or not, needs to learn about their energetics and how to manage their field. And why am I stressing this so much with this enlightenment? Because you're bringing light to things. You too are becoming lighter, and with that comes personal attacks, like I've been experiencing all week, which would in your eyes be totally unwarranted. But also when you're feeling the energies of things, you can see that they're either running on an old program of wounds, deep wounds, and entity attachments to their fields, right? Because they're fractured and things get in. They don't realize that they need to activate their light. That's all they need to do, is be in their light. But sometimes they get too shadowed over their other stuff to be in it. So all of a sudden the world around them becomes fearful, and everybody's a nemesis or enemy or adversary, when it's not anywhere near the truth. But you stay in your truth of your communication and integrity, and all will be well. There's nothing for you to fight or argue with that person or with anyone else. Because oftentimes someone operating in that way will go around and not be of integrity when they're speaking, and they try to defame other people, or they gossip and this and that, and you don't have to feed into it, period. Because you give someone enough rope, people start to see them for the way they're operating, and they kind of get tangled up in their own mess. So by you just being in your integrity, in your pillar of light, staying focused and doing what you need to do, bringing light to situations and yourself, and even the circumstance as a whole, right? Because all souls were still part of the oneness, you'll be fine. They're not always easy to navigate in the beginning, but you'll be fine. And you will develop these qualities, and you'll become more and more sustainable in your energy as you bring more and more things to light within yourself, as you know your inner, and you're bringing in your higher qualities. So you already know how to be enlightened. You already know how to be it, because you're doing it on a smaller scale. You just didn't realize it, right? So it makes it highly attainable for all of us as enlightened beings, and working toward sustainable enlightenment, where we're just there, where we just embody it, right? We just embody it. So now to the card reading about the card of enlightenment. I'm wondering if we said enough about the all over the earth. Oh yeah, because this brings communities together all around, and we're seeing that. We're seeing pockets of communities coming together, closer and closer contact. We want contact with ourselves. We want contact with the universe. We're becoming more and more recognizing we're part of this galactic world, and other galactics, right? Because we are too galactic, right? We just don't call ourselves that. So that even that galactic community We want to know more about it. We want to learn about it. But what I encourage you to do and focus on first or simultaneously is that connection with your divine self, your higher self, your presence. Because as you're going to learn skills as you connect with those energies and qualities and the universal rays of light. These other galactics, I'll say, they know how to use these energies too. And you also want to be certain that you're seeing benevolent beings of light and galactic beings of light, because there are also other beings that are not of light. And begin to work with your universal laws and just even say, are you a being of light? If not, you must go. Like, you command it. It's universal law that they have to disclose if they are of light or not. Okay. And for some of you, that might not make sense right now, but it will. For others of you, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, thanks for that reminder. Your soul knows. Okay. Your soul knows what to do. So trust that. The way of operating in an egoic manner, it begins to dissolve more and more as you become more and more enlightened and bring light to things, because you're becoming more, remember, humble through this process. As you bring light to you, you're bringing light to you, your situations, you're taking responsibility and accountability for your life in a way that you haven't before. And with that, you're also being in the truth of all that is, even the stuff that's not pretty to see and look at. And so the ability to be in enlightenment energies, it becomes really important. Like, how can we bring wisdom and light to these discordant energies that occur in the world? We have so many things in the macro world occurring that they are ugly things that are being unearthed, that all of us, we are not separate from it, hid it under the rug and participated in keeping it underground. Every person that didn't speak out but knew about, like, trafficking children, knew about trafficking women, all those things, right? Or even when because it's so much to even address, when we deny that even it occurs, that's also sweeping it under the rug, because we don't want to see. We don't want to acknowledge that something like that exists. And how do I hold compassion for those souls, right? How do I hold compassion for those souls and their choices? How do I transmute that? For those of you that might use your light body to transmute energies, that's a huge ask by you. And some of you feel as light workers are called to do that. And those of you that are more light warriors are doing your other work too. That goes a little bit beyond some things, and you're working with the planetary grid and other stuff. So not everyone feels called to do that, nor does everyone have to. You, on a soul level, you'll know what your calling is. Okay. So anything else from this Tesla? And pride. Okay, the elimination of ego and pride. Yeah, because that just gets in the way, just creates strife. Even that, like my example that I shared with you, this person's creating strife and suffering in their world. And you know who's hurting? She's hurting. You know what the potential weird loss is potential people in your life that care about you, right? Friendships. But what I'm witnessing in it, it's insecurities, it's the ego, the pride's getting hit, but it's really these insecurities too that get in the way, right? Versus totally seeing like, hey, you had someone here that was inquiring about coming together. You're telling them it's totally opposite and kind of treating them like a dick in the process. So, so don't be a jerk, right? We can easily say that, don't be a jerk. Some people are just kind of being assholes, and while others are just got stuff attached to them, other patterns running through them, and then they're still being an asshole. And then a bit two-faced in your face. Oh, I'll just be all nice to you, and we're at the similar settings. but behind closed doors, I'm going to speak poorly about you. Behind the closed doors of even email, I'm going to berate you, right? That's abuse. That's like gaslighting. It's narcissistic behavior. It's not aligned, right? But here's where the compassion comes in, that awareness of recognizing. And it's not about pointing fingers at the other person, but it's having that compassion and just that lighter piece and go up in your higher self and being like, I recognize that they're suffering. And whatever labels I just said, whether narcissistic, being a jerk, although those are just labels, they're just terms. Let's not get attached to that, because we can recognize the behavior, right? Because I can be just as much of a, jerk as anyone if I choose. If I act on certain emotions, I can be. Am I that very often? Rarely. But at the days that I have been that, I take ownership. I'll take ownership if I'm too hard on someone. Absolutely. Because we get stretched and it happens, but I'm not condoning the behavior, right? I'm just recognizing we're all capable of it. So we're all part of the oneness. And you got to just let things unfold while keeping healthy boundaries and then not stoking the fire, someone else's fire. Okay. So I don't know. So don't be a dick, I guess. Right. And laugh at it, because internally, not to someone's face, but just being like, oh, okay, this is where it's going to go. It's going to go. You're not attached to the outcome. Okay. You might feel it, but you don't have to be attached to it. Just continue to speed love, compassion, and light, bring light to it. What wisdom comes from this, and move on. Sometimes it's a shared wisdom. Sometimes it's only personal to you. And then remember, peace. This is important to restate. Peace. This is all part of the quote, and that's to the end of the quote. Peace can only come as a natural consequence of universal enlightenment. So that means everybody and everything must be at peace. Right? When there's universal enlightenment, the natural consequence to that is peace. So that being would be at peace. I'd be at peace. The people around us would be at peace, right? But how can you be at peace if you are creating more and more suffering for others and for yourself? Right? At some point within you, just bring light and wisdom to it and let the rest go, because the rest no longer matters. Be present, be in your presence, be in the now. Okay, so it's getting a little longer than I'd like today, maybe because I started a little later, but I think we're about I don't know, maybe an hour. That seems about my norm, hour and a half sometimes. Oh, la, la, la. Sometimes I just start talking. 35, enlightenment, continuing. Yes, so we're coming back to the card, continuing to grow. So it's like a continuum. You're going to constantly be growing. And hold on, I got to plug in. I'm going to pause just for a second here. Thank you. I had to plug in the computer. So the card reading, enlightenment, and continuing to grow. So remembering you're continuing to grow. So show yourself some grace. Remember, show yourself some grace, show the other person some grace. And because we're all just growing and trying to get through this and bring peace to ourselves and bring peace to the world by being peace in our hearts. So here we go, 35, card number 35, enlightenment, continue to grow. In my Father's house, there are many rooms. As a teaching from Jesus, and one we should remember when we consider the nature of enlightenment. In God's house, i.e., the kingdom of heaven, which also exists on earth, all are welcome Diversity is encouraged, and different faiths and beliefs are equally respected, reflecting that all the ascended masters work together and that man-made divisions are redundant. Here, there should be no condemnation or suspicion of how others experience spirit and God, or any desire to be right and the only one holding the truth. Instead, we are invited to sit energetically in circle with our fellow brothers and sisters to witness each other's journey underneath the same roof, which is our world that we are here to experience. We can learn from each other and grow as we seek to deeply understand, listen, and engage. In essence, there is not just one way to experience God. Christ consciousness qualities are shared by many who seek to put love, forgiveness, compassion center stage. And we need to remember that we all come from and go back to the same energy of creation. Remember the Om sound? Om. If you don't remember that, go back to yesterday's video or day 4, which is love, right? Okay, the same energy of creation, which is love. Realize too that at any one time we will have be woken, we all be working on different parts of the enlightenment path, requiring tolerance of each other. Since what you may have mastered, others will be just learning, and vice versa. We also are seldom aware of others' soul contracts and lessons already completed in their other lives. Wherever we are now, though, we require introspection of ourselves, absolute honesty, and a willingness to adapt, change, and be open to what arises. So often there is a misconception that spirituality is just about love and light. And while these are the most powerful energies at our disposal, we become truly enlightened only by being brave enough to go into our own darkness and shadow. Here, there is no escape from our flaws, selfish acts, and unkindness. We must face unpleasant truths about ourselves, what we have done, thought, and been. God never judges these parts. However, neither should we stay in shame, but instead bring love into our pain and ugliness, and to heal, enlighten, and to transform the hidden concerns of self and all we are. Acknowledge the sacred inner journey you're on, one that can be helped via self-care practices, reflection, mindfulness, meditation, fresh fruit and vegetables, and perhaps yoga or another form of holistic exercise. By going within, we understand more of what manifests outward as a result, seeing the mirror effect of what we are and can then attract into our lives. We become more conscious, in tune with our surroundings and environment, and realize the influence we can assert positively to raise the vibration of Earth as well as ourselves. Today, think about whether you are spiritually growing or in a safe zone or are stuck, unable to expand into new ideas and ways to interact with the world. Is there something you wish to learn, an imbalance that needs correction? E.g., in receiving or giving or new practice you would like to try. Be willing to sit and absorb the frequency of Mother Earth as she ascends in consciousness too, receiving her light codes, moon phases, cyclical dates, and changing rhythms. Being at one with your body's energy system and listening to its needs help you respect the temple that holds your soul in this lifetime and serves you well. And the body's energy system, the mudras, work with your energetic body and serves you well. So I think we'll end right there. There's a lot in this, and perhaps maybe it wasn't what you were going to anticipate that would come through. And So I encourage you to show yourself some grace, some compassion, and do the Hawaiian prayer if you need to, and the Ho'oponopono, right? Please forgive me. I'm sorry. I love you. Thank you. It may not be necessarily said in that order, but you get it. And this weekend, there'll be no post over the weekend. Take some time to integrate some of this energy over the next couple days as we're coming more and more into the solstice energies. And yeah, I will be integrating as well. And we'll begin with day 6 on Monday. Have a beautiful, beautiful day and weekend. Much love to you. I'm Gina with Soul Inspired Reflections. And feel free to like and share this post and this series of 55 Days with Christ Consciousness. Have a really blessed day. And remember, it's not only about what's coming through me as a channel or conduit, it's about trusting your own downloads, your higher guidance coming through, your intuition, and stepping further into your spiritual sovereignty. Have a beautiful day. Stay focused, stay grounded, and stay in love.